What's going on, kings and queens? Thanks for joining me again and keeping it copacetic. It's time to kick back, relax, and chill. So grab your tea, your wine, your honey, your ice cream cone, whatever it is that helps you to relax, some chamomile, light you some candles and or whatever to get your aromatherapy going, your scents. I've got my candle going. So I'm ready to get my relaxing vibe going on. Today I'm working with this Rise mushroom coffee stuff. I've tried that order that I've been seeing a lot online, so I'm going to try that. Let's take a couple of sips. I've been sipping on that. They say it's supposed to help reduce your belly fat. And so since I'm trying to get to the beach next week, I need my belly fat reduced a little bit. But anyway, anytime you drink out of a Prince cup, you can't expect nothing but satisfaction. And so that's what it's all about. So today I'm going to read two chapters, chapter 8 and chapter 9, because they're kind of short. So before we get into that, let's do a short recap of chapter 7. So in chapter 7, David and Portia, they fulfill each other's fantasy, right? And so David's fantasy was to be spanked. So he came to Portia's house. He had the sexy cowgirl costume on, and then put that on, and she tamed that wild stallion. And then after he got his fantasy fulfilled, then he came and he gave her the propofol, and she had that peaceful dream. This is what she was after. She dreamed of her son and an experience where they were shopping for his tuxedo for the prom. And it's just a sweet scene and a sweet time. And so she just woke up refreshed and just so happy and wonderful that everything that she had set out, it turned out to be all that she wanted it to be. So that was chapter 7. So let's go ahead and get into chapter 8. Good morning, Miss Roberts. You look nice today. You must have had a good weekend, Keisha said sweetly with a look of suspicion. Thank you, Keisha. Good morning to you, too. I did have a good weekend, I said graciously. Did you enjoy your extended weekend? Keisha was famous for taking off Fridays and Mondays. I was sick for 2 days, but I started feeling better yesterday, she said, remembering her cover story for her absence. I'm glad to hear that. You've been sick a lot lately. I was concerned. I might need to set an appointment for you to get a full checkup, I said, toying with her. It's nothing serious, mostly allergies, she said, turning back to her computer screen. I proceeded into my office and looked at my scheduled appointments and my to-do list. It looked like it would be a light week. I was about to call my sister when David walked in the door. It's good to see you in the land of the living. I was a little worried about you, he said, coming around my desk and rubbing my shoulder. I couldn't be better. The patient has made a miraculous recovery. How about yourself? Is that booty still tender? I asked, unable to keep the smile off my face as I got an outrageous flashback of the two of us. I think it needs a bit more time to heal, but no complaints, he said. By the way, where did you get that milk from? I asked, wanting to get a year's supply. If I tell you, then I'd have to kill you. Don't start that comedy routine. It is too early in the week. Really, Portia, the less you know, the better. That's fine, Agent 007. I was just wondering because I accidentally dropped the bottle on the floor and it broke. We'll talk when we walk tomorrow, he said as he left my office. I need to settle down, I said to myself. I'm already lying like a drug addict after only one dose. I picked up the phone and called my sister Paula. She always calmed me down. Ooh, look who has the time to make a personal call during the day, she answered jovially. Yes, it's a different world for me now. I don't have to watch the stock market every minute. Girl, you should have made the switch a long time ago. I know, sometimes it takes some incentive before you can make a change. So what else is going on? Well, I had a dream about Nick the other night, and it was like I went back and shared a special time with him, and it was so comforting. That's good, Portia. You have to focus on the good times and not dwell so much on what happened. You're right. I'm going to try and do that more. Anyway, I wanted to call and see what you and Charles are up to. You know Charles, he's moved on to his next get-rich-quick scheme, flipping houses. The harder he tries to make us some money, the less we have. Tell him I said to keep up the good work. Yeah, I'll do that all the way to bankruptcy court, she laughed. I'll call you next week if my phone is still on. The sun was beaming like it was noon, and it was still over 90 degrees, even though it was after 6 o'clock on our scheduled walking time on Tuesday. It's too hot to walk, David said, getting out of his car in gym shorts and a t-shirt. Well, if you're not feeling it, we can sit it out. One day mist shouldn't hurt, I said, more agreeable to pass on a trek in that stifling heat. I spotted a swing in the shade, and we walked across the grass to sit down and relax and talk. You doing okay? He asked. Yeah, I'm fine, I said, feeling a little awkward after our night of fantasies. I want to know what your trip was like, he asked. It was idyllic, everything I hoped it would be, and I woke up feeling so tranquil and well rested. It was like a revelation to me. I hesitated to tell him about my experience with Nick because it was so personal. Did you feel like you were high? He asked. No, it wasn't like a high. It was a sense of peace. To each his own, he said, shaking his head. I crave intensity, high stimulation, everything turned up 2 notches above normal. I operate on autopilot so much I need feelings that remind me that I'm alive. And those feelings are pain. Why aren't your fantasies something you can share with your wife? Surrendering to someone is over the top intimacy. You two don't have that type of bond? I have to command a certain respect in my house. I have to maintain control, so I can't allow her to know that I have feelings like that. She hasn't lived enough life to understand the complexities of human nature. That's deep, but I have to admit it's true, I said. Things only get more complicated from the time you leave your mama's womb. She did get suspicious, though, so I'm going to have to walk the line for a while. Does that mean I won't get any more milk? I've got you, but after this time, I'm done. I don't want you getting hooked on that stuff. You're my hero, I said, giving him a kiss on the cheek. We walked back to the cars, and he said, don't look for me to walk until the temps drop under 80 degrees. I'm not trying to have a heat stroke out here. I hear you, I said, smiling as I drove off. Thank God it was Friday at last. The week had started off fast, and then it slowed to a crawl by hump day. Thursday felt like 48 hours. I was so keyed up I could barely focus. The doorbell rang about 7:30, and I was elated that David had finally arrived. You got a Heineken, he asked. Sure, I said, going into the kitchen. David followed and sat in a chair at the bar. I can't stay, so I'm going to show you how to inject yourself. You clean your arm with alcohol and then apply the lidocaine first. The most accessible vein in your arm is here, he said, pulling my arms towards him to show me. I'll fill the syringe for you. You need to inject steadily and quickly because you'll be out in less than 30 seconds. Now, if you're uncomfortable with it, you don't have to do this today. You can wait until next week and I'll do it for you. This was even better news. I was more than happy to be by myself. I didn't feel like going through any more freaky scenes. David and I were searching for very different things. There was a complete contrast between our desires that went from the sublime to the bizarre. I took the vial and all the stuff David left and carried it to my bedroom. I searched in my closet for an old makeup case that would be a perfect size to hold the items I needed for the injection. If only this drug was a pill, it would be so much easier. I could definitely understand why someone would pay someone else to handle the whole process. I got comfortable in the middle of the bed, glad I was wearing my short sleeve pajamas. I cleaned my arm, smoothed on the lidocaine, and found the vein David had shown me. My right hand shook from nervousness, but I stuck the vein and quickly injected the contents of the syringe. I pulled it out and barely had time to lay it on the nightstand before the sensation of weightlessness and floating overtakes me. The bright beams of light appear, and I'm moving so fast I can't tell if I'm spinning or if the atmosphere is spinning around me. Once again, the beams of light break into colors and the speed slow, and I can see the flashing images. I see Pam and Nick running on the beach, and I can't look away. And then I lose consciousness. Don't run too close to the water, Raymond yells to the kids while he lies across my lap. There are less than 2 years between Pam and Nick, but she's tall and lean. She's wearing the yellow two-piece she begged me to buy, and you can't tell her anything. I love the beach. Watching the waves is like a mother rocking her baby. It's so soothing. It's the first time we've been on a real vacation since Nick was born. I take off my shades and I lay them on the blanket next to me so I can film the kids with the camcorder. He's not going to give up until he catches her, I say. Unless she gets tired, that's not going to be today. Her legs are almost as twice as his, he says. But you got to love his determination. I watch them running with the waves lapping at their bare feet, and I'm so glad we decided to come to Hilton Head. We're usually so busy working that we don't take time to enjoy each other as a family. Thanks for rearranging your schedule so we could all go, I say, rubbing Ray on the head. No problem. I love you guys, and I realize that sometimes you have to stop and value what's important to you in this life. Nicky looks to see where we are, and it must seem so far to him because he just stops and starts running back to us. No fair, Pam protests when she realizes he's not chasing anymore. Wait for me, she yells, trying to catch him. She's so competitive, even with her little brother. He starts laughing because he knows she won't beat him back under the umbrella. When he gets close, he dives on top of us like he's sliding into home plate, and it's so funny. Mama, I beat Pam. I'm faster than her. No, you're not. You cheated, she argues with her hands on her little hips. You both are the fastest runners I've ever seen, I tell them as I brush the sand off Nicky's short legs. Mama, I wish we could live here. Me too, I say, giving him a kiss on his round cheek. He squeezes in between Raymond and me and sits in my lap, and I love it. His brown skin is moist from running by the water, and it's still soft like a baby's, even though he's almost 5 years old. On the ride back to the hotel, I can hear them in the back seat singing with Aaliyah on the radio, and they sound so sweet. It's been a perfect day. I lean back on the headrest and fall asleep. The next morning when I woke up, I felt like I had received the best gift of my life, and I could not have been happier. I couldn't stop smiling. My mission was accomplished. The propofol had done what I hoped it would. I had found the way to see my son whenever I wanted to, at any age I wanted. I could touch him and hear his voice. I could just catch the image or time in his life that I wanted to relive. It changed everything. The emptiness I had felt, it wasn't a permanent part of my life as long as I had a supply of the propofol. I felt like I had discovered a well-kept secret, one that Michael Jackson had shared. I understood his obsession so clearly now. The propofol allowed him to escape from the media frenzy that was his life. He could go to any part of his life that he desired. His yearning to be Peter Pan and never grow up was fulfilled whenever he could breach this level of consciousness. I had to resist the temptation to give myself another injection. Only once a week, I reminded myself. It's hard for me to behave normally. Difficult not to share the information with the people I love. But who would believe me? Most of the family and friends that I have close to me have watched me teetering on the edge of sanity for some years now. They would probably assume that I have finally crossed the line. I would have to keep it to myself, at least for now. The pain had ebbed some. I could get back to living again. I considered calling George. I missed him. He was a quality man, and he had brought that quality to my life when we were seeing each other. But I wasn't ready to be in a relationship with anybody. I was still struggling with how to live with myself. I spent the rest of the day walking around in a daze, wondering what was really happening when I was unconscious, and my curiosity was building. It was still Saturday, so unlike Rip Van Winkle, I hadn't lost time sleeping. From what I could ascertain, I had reached a level of my consciousness where there was an opening to transcend to another dimension without my body even leaving the room. I needed to talk and sort out my feelings, so I called Paula. Get up and get a move on, I said, joking when she answered. That was the way our mom charged into our room every morning to wake us up for school. I couldn't believe that it had been 30 years since she passed away from the complications of her diabetes. My dad slowly retreated in his own world after that, so I missed them both. Stop it, girl, not today. I was out last night. Charles wanted to see that new movie playing Avatar. I haven't seen it. How'd you like it? I asked. It was too far out there for me. You know I don't like sci-fi. You never know what's out there in the universe, I told her. Good. That's the way I want to keep it. Every time I watch that stuff, it gives me nightmares. Anyway, how are you doing? I can't complain. Pam's doing her thing in Virginia, and I haven't heard from Raymond in months. That's a shame. I thought you all would have pulled it together by now. It's fine. I'm all right with it. I even stepped out for a few dates. Are you kidding? No, I'm for real. Well, did you meet anybody special? I think I did, but I'm not ready to get serious just yet. Why not? It's not like you have a whole lot of time to waste. You probably only have about 12 months of good looks left, so you better get somebody on lockdown. We're not getting any younger, baby. Speaking of younger, I went cougar and dated one of the young doctors from work. Stop. Hold on. I've got to get some popcorn to chew while I listen to this. This is better than a movie last night. His name is Keith, and he had a thing for older women. If all I wanted was hot sex on the regular, he would have been the one for me. Portia, I can't believe you. Are you finally breaking out of your prudish shell? Let's just say the shell disintegrated. I'm stunned. Girl, you have to give me Keith's number. I want to write it in my little black book just in case. See, I called you for an intelligent conversation and we got way off track. I decided not to tell her about George or David yet. I don't think she could take it all at one time. Do you remember that movie when the guy travels back to the past in the time machine? Yeah, I saw it, but I don't remember much about it. What do you think about that theory that all time exists simultaneously? I have no idea. Living in the here and now is more than I can deal with. If you could go back and visit your past, would you? I'm not sure. I already have my memories. What would be the point? I might be interested in the future though. Definitely in next week's Mega Millions number. Are you thinking you want to go back to your past? I definitely do. To me, it would be like having another taste of something delicious. What's wrong with that? It would seem like torture to me because you can't change anything. And you don't just relive the good, the bad comes with it. I know it's hard, Portia, but if you could find an interest or something you're passionate about, I believe you could find your life again. I'm working on it, sis, and it's coming together. I just wanted to call and say hello and check on my family. You need to come and check on us in person. I miss you. I will. I promise. I'm doing what TD Jake said we need to do. I'm preparing for a breakthrough. Wow. That's chapter 8. Let me take a little sip of this rise. Chapter 9. David called to chat whenever he could to see what I was up to, given that his wife was on high alert and all of his time had to be accounted for. It was a relief for me because the path I was traveling was a personal one that I couldn't share with anyone else right now. And David required a lot of my attention, and I had too many of my own unanswered questions to entertain those of somebody else. Not to mention, an idea had been circulating in my head all week. What if I increased the dosage by 10%? My trips were so short. I wondered if more propofol would extend my time in the past. I wasn't under that long with the amount I was taking. I usually woke up after 4 hours, so I figured if I took a larger dose, it might help me sleep longer and I could have more time with Nick. The experiences that I had weren't long enough for me. I had gotten what I wanted. I was more at peace, but I was greedy. On Friday night, I climbed into bed with my kit and increased the dose in the syringe by 10% and found the vein in my left arm. It's different this time. I'm falling at a higher rate of speed. I feel disconcerted, like I'm losing connection with myself, and I'm afraid of the nothingness. Then the beams of light shoot out from the darkness towards me like rockets, and they're spinning around me. Colors blend into the white rays, and images are moving fast and mixing into one. I can feel the heat engulfing me, and all the colors are like fire. I see people running with fear in their eyes all around me. I want to scream, but I have no voice, and I hear her calling, Jed, Jed, wake up. I focus on the sound of my name, and I open my eyes to the ceiling of her house, and my eyes trail down the side of the wall made of clay and straw. It wasn't real. It was just a dream. I'm safe in our village in the mountains, many, many miles east of the city. I can't believe I'm still having nightmares about the invasion. It's been 3 years since King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon returned to Jerusalem with his army to destroy the second of Solomon's temples and burn down the palace. The soldiers showed no mercy, killing Hebrews for sport, crushing the white limestone blocks, breaking down the walls, and setting off blazes in the path of destruction. It was a ghastly scene, and the horror replays in my mind even while I'm awake. Now I can see that those who died escaped a worse fate. The suffering of those who were spared hasn't seen no end. The heat of the fires created a hell all through Jerusalem. Mama says God was angered that his laws handed down to the people of Israel have been disobeyed and they were worshiping idols. I have been haunted by the sight of blood that ran in the street from men, women, children, and even animals. We barely escaped with our lives, saved by my papa who hid my mama and me in piles of straw behind our home while the soldiers ravaged the city, slicing everything in sight with their long swords. Jed, she calls again with more urgency. Yes, mother, I say, turning and running and rubbing the sleep from my eyes. I'm awake. Is that so? I've only been calling you for 10 minutes. The sun is still rising, but I can see her across the room preparing the bread in the dim light. She's always working, I say to myself, from the moment she wakes up and long after I lay down. She deserves more than this. Why should a person be born with nothing, work so hard all their lives, and still have so little? Once I dreamed that I could learn a valuable trade where I could provide her with more, but with all the skilled craftsmen and blacksmiths living in exile in Babylon, who's left to teach me? I'm stuck here without hope of anything more than a life of breaking my back and having nothing to show for it. Son, what's troubling you this morning? She fusses. You're behind time and the flocks are waiting. If your father were home, he would be very angry with you. It was true, and I was glad he wasn't. It was my time as the youngest son to feed the sheep. He and my brother Uriah had gone on a journey to Jerusalem to pay tithes from the crops to the priests. It didn't make much sense to me. The priests in the old temples had been corrupted with the money and riches from the people. How would these new priests be able to resist the same temptations? Keep up, son. Get your heads out of the clouds, my papa would say over and over when my feet would slow to take in the beauty of the temples and the opulence of the palace. It has to be heaven to live inside those buildings, Papa, I would tell him. Surely God would want to dwell in their glory. Except now they're gone, down to the ground as dust. My papa is never happy with what I do. He thinks I'm lazy, but it's not true. No matter how hard I worked in the fields, he thinks I'm worthless. It seems I can't do enough to please him, and I don't want to see any more disappointment in his eyes. I had seen enough when my two older brothers were taken into the Babylonian army after the wars of Jerusalem were torn down. The strong and the well-trained were taken away, and the poor like us were left behind to farm the land. I don't see why we're being punished with the evil ones who reveled in sin. My mama and papa never turned away from the one God of Israel. I stretch my long legs and stand up and roll up the mat of skins where I slept on the clay floor. I pull the tangles out of my hair with my hand and wrap my head in my cloth and put on my sandals. Come drink your milk, Mama says. Time is wasting. I don't see why we have to work up from sunup to sundown to give away the little we have, I say to her. Shut up that selfish talk. We must offer the first grain harvest as a sacrifice to the priests at the temple so our family will be blessed. This isn't what I want for me, being a shepherd or a farmer. I want to study and learn things, Mama. I was thinking that maybe I could do better in Babylon with my brothers. There's nothing to do out here. We're only one step from being in the wilderness. Jed, if you don't learn to be grateful, you will surely bring God's punishment on yourself. We are blessed. There are some who only have tents to cover themselves and no food to eat. God has provided our family with fruitful land to farm and feed ourselves. Yes, Mama, forgive me, I say, eating a bite of bread and swallowing the milk. I could hear my father's words echoing in my head as I grab my shepherd's bag, my sling, my flute, and my rod. Get your head out of the clouds, lest we have no flock. The air had fewer chills on it lately, so I put my mantle on over my tunic with the wool side out. I walked down to the pen to tend to the sheep just as my older brothers, Joel, Zuriah, and Uriah had done before me. I need to show Father I'm responsible. I'm going to lose a single sheep while they're gone into Jerusalem. Asher, I yell out towards the valley, taking my staff that leaned against the side of the house. That dog of mine was always wandering around down there looking for rabbits or something to chase. But he is the most faithful of friends, working at my side come rain, cold, or hot sun. He runs past me to the sheepfold, and I follow him to open the gate. Come on, my ready army. We need to eat to stay strong, I say above the sheep as they move out of the gate. 41 is the count when the last one saunters out under the rod. I led the flock to the green pasture on the high ground 4 miles to the east where they can graze. I sit down in the grass near the herd and reach in my script where my mother has packed me a meal of bread, cheese, fruit, and olives. I eat while I watch the sheep get their fill. The air smells so fresh and unspoiled compared to the city, and I take off my sandals to feel the deep carpet of grass around my feet. Asher sits at my side, and I share some of the food I have left, and he opens his mouth in a smile. Boredom is the hardest thing to overcome in the pasture, so I reach for my flute and start to play the tunes I have taught myself in these hours of solitude. When the sheep begin to listen and come close to me, I know they are done feeding and want water. Asher, to the stream, I call out, and he starts barking and heading down the mountain to the stream below. I look around for strays, but the flocks has stayed tight. At the stream, I kneel down to refill my water pouch while the sheep drink and cool their feet. That's when I see it. A lion at the entrance of the forest beyond the clearing. He has the advantage of the trees and the darkness of a cave to his left, while I am without a shield at the edge of the water. My eyes lock to the animals, and I try to anticipate his next move. Was he a man-eater, or would he drag off one of my sheep? Our eyes stay locked, and I slowly reach for my sling, and the lion begins to pace, and his mouth drops open. I can see the sharpness of his teeth that rip flesh as easy as a knife. I scrape over the ground with the bottom of my sandal, hoping to feel a rock close to the surface. Yet I know that if he charges, I won't have time to retrieve the stone under my foot and throw it. Then Asher catches sight of him and starts barking. The lion is distracted, and the sheep are alarmed and start to scatter. In that moment of confusion, I snatch up the rock from the dirt. I place it in the sling, swing it in a circle twice and let it fly, praying it will hit its mark. Wounded and dazed, the lion skirts back into the cover of the trees. I round up the flock as quickly as I can and rush them up the side of the mountain to safety. Asher dashes to the front, and I guard them from the rear. Back in the safety of the sheepfold, I count them again. Thank goodness, the number is still 41. Papa would be proud of me, but I still have a problem. I have to get rid of the lion. The herd will have to eat again tomorrow, and then the next day. What if it ventures close to the house and attacks my mama? There is only one thing I can do. I have to return to the cave. I fill my script with heavy, sharp rocks for my sling, and I fill in my pocket for my knife. Come, Asher, we have to get that lion off of our territory, I say as he trots beside me to the other side of the mountain. In the clearing of the stream, I see it in the shadows of the trees, waiting for some thirsty animal to drink. Quiet, Asher, I say as I put a heavy rock in my sling. I swing it high over my head until it begins to whir, and then I release it. I follow it to the point between the eyes of the lion. He roars with pain, looks in our direction, and then he charges towards us. Run, Asher, I shout as I started running toward the forest, hoping to find a tree I can climb. The lion is hurt and running slower, thank God. There's an opening on the other side of the trees, and I keep running through it. I turn around to look back to see if the lion has given up chase, and that's when I stumble over a branch and on the edge of a cliff, and I'm falling faster and then faster, and then I can't see what's around me. I reach my arms out to grab hold of anything to break my fall, and then I pass out. When I open my eyes, I'm lying in the ruffled sheets of my bed, and I feel like I've been asleep for at least a week. I turn on the TV to CNN just to make sure it was still Saturday and that I hadn't been asleep for days. What the hell was that all about? I asked as I stood in the mirror making sure that I have the same face that I had last night. That episode was mind-boggling. That excerpt wasn't from my life. That experience had to be from another life and another era. Yet it was as vivid as my other experiences and felt that I was actually present in the life. When I was there, it was me. I was sure of that. But what's up with the shepherd boy? I didn't get the impression that we were two individuals. I was acting on my own volition. This was so confusing. I wasn't sure what had gone wrong. I had to get some coffee and something to eat. I took a quick shower and changed since I hate to cook in pajamas. I took my time and made myself some French toast while I went over everything that had happened. The difference was the increase in the dosage. Could it have put my conscious mind and my spirit in a deeper state where it separated from my life and went to another? The whole thing was getting more spacey by the minute. I went into my home office and turned on the computer. I Googled the date that King Solomon's temples were destroyed and read that it occurred 5 centuries before Jesus Christ was born. Then I Googled time travel, but I couldn't understand much of what I read, and most of it didn't seem to apply. It wasn't my tangible body that had done the traveling. It was the essence of me, or my spirit that was transported to my body at another space and time. I started to wonder if the spirit was some type of trinity that might exist in 3 parts, maybe the past, the present, and the future. What if I had gone from my present life to another life thousands of years before? The notion fascinated me. I had been a male, a Jew. Without this experience, I would have never thought that could have been anything more than a black female. Then there's another possibility. Maybe I'm spending too much time by myself and insanity is settling in. Yet I couldn't help but recognize a shared problem. It was the fear of nightmares and the dreams of a traumatic event. Being Jed, I saw how ridiculous it was to be afraid of dreams when the daily challenges of life are much more daunting. After that experience, I needed some company for my present. I called George to see if he wanted to go out to dinner. The hostess set us in a quiet, private booth at Jim Kelly's, and George ordered us a couple glasses of wine. I was surprised to hear from you. It's been a while. How have you been? He asked. I'm doing well, I said. I've been getting a lot more rest, and it's been good for me. How about your marital status? Have there been any changes that might interest me? You didn't waste any time getting to the point. I haven't filed any papers as of yet, but I'm ready to move on. Well, that's encouraging, he said, lifting his glass for me to toast. Well, what about you? Have you been dating anyone? I asked curiously. I've met a few women, and I've been out several times, but not with anyone who appeals to me as much as you. I see you still know how to make a woman feel good. I'm here whenever you're ready, Portia, to take that next step. I've told you where I stand. I know that, and I think about it more than you know. Well, then what are we waiting for? He asked just as the waitress came over to the table. I think we need to order, I said, changing the subject. Do you need a few more minutes? The waitress asked. Just a few, George answered. Do you want an appetizer? He asked, looking at the menu. No, the shrimp with the pasta is enough for me. When the waitress came back, George ordered the baked chicken and the shrimp for me. So if you're not ready to be my woman, to what do I owe this invitation? I missed your company, George, and I wanted to see you. I'm not interested in hanging out, Portia. I'm looking for someone to share my life with. Well, you're way ahead of me, and I'm trying to catch up. I've just gotten to the point where I can relax and really allow myself to be happy and have a good time. What I couldn't say was that the pressure and anxiety about getting propofol was gone, but I was doing something he wouldn't understand or condone, and I wasn't ready to stop. This looks delicious, George said when the server brought our food out. I just remembered that I didn't have any lunch today. For George, it was all or nothing, and I was still being pulled in several directions. I ate slowly to extend the time that I could have his attention. Thanks for joining me, I said at the end of the evening. It was my pleasure, he said, walking me to my car. I'll be in touch, I said as he closed the car door. He nodded and walked away. And that is chapter 9. Wow. Now that was a trip. So anyway, thanks again, kings and queens, for joining me and keeping it copacetic. Stay chill, stay relaxed. Remember, all what's going on in this world, we only can do what we can do. What's that 12-step thing? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Yes, Lord. We will do that. Until the next time, take care. Stay peaceful.